So today is Wednesday. I'm actually recording this recap a day late because I didn't have time yesterday. But yesterday was such a big day in the market. I definitely had to come in and give a recap from my trading day yesterday. I had one of my biggest trades percentage wise on Palantir was up over 100% on runners on this trade. And so I wanted to make sure I shared this recap in case it could be helpful for anyone else. So, first, let's start with the market. We had some big news yesterday on de escalation in the Iran war, and that caused the overall market to push higher. We've also been seeing companies continue to push out record earnings, and that has been sending stocks higher as well, pretty much across the board. But yesterday was a rare situation where it seemed like almost every sector of the market was moving higher. Semis, software, you probably could have closed your eyes and bought calls on almost anything and been in the green. But those situations can also be tricky because a lot of times traders come in and you're trying to chase the upside and then you get trapped in a long and then the market reverses or the stock reverses and then you end up taking a loss and then you're mad at yourself because you're like, how did I take a loss when the market is ripping like this? I've definitely been there before. So I wanted to make sure I avoided that. But let's go ahead and jump into the trade itself and what got me interested in Palantir in the first place. So I've been a long-term Palantir shareholder. I've actually been down a little bit. I have some leaps on Palantir, and you can see that it's pretty much been trading sideways for the last few months. It tried to break out and then rejected the 200-day moving average and has been holding below that for quite some time. But then if you look at Palantir's earnings, they really blew it out of the water. They beat on pretty much every metric you can think of. They're growing revenue over 100% year over year. Their commercial business is booming. And I think they're really successfully convincing their customers that they're the true partner that you want to partner with. They're pushing this whole data sovereignty movement. But anyway, I was interested in a day trade on Palantir as well, just after the strong earnings. And I wanted to see how Palantir would react at some of these key levels. So if you look at the 4-hour chart, which is one of my favorite charts for plotting higher time frame levels, you can see that Palantir broke out after earnings and pushed right up into some pretty major supply levels, one around 146. We pretty much blew straight through that. And then you came up into around 152, which also aligned with the 200 daily moving average. And that's a really big, important moving average for any stock. You can see last time we hit that moving average was around June, and we rejected that pretty aggressively, and that triggered this entire downside move. And so I was actually thinking that maybe we would reject it this time, but I wanted to see how we would react at that level. I didn't have any preconceived notions. I didn't plan to come in shorting it. I just wanted to see what would happen as we hit that level. So let's look at the 5-minute chart and you can see where I entered. When I trade, I usually like to watch stocks on the 5-minute chart, and then I go in and I look at the 1-minute chart to actually make my entries and put my stop loss in place. So you can see Palantir, just like pretty much every other stock in the market, shot up right off of the open. So you immediately blew past this pre-market supply level, which was also a higher time frame supply level. You reclaimed the VWAP and the 9 EMA, and you were just off to the races. And I usually don't trade within the first about 30 minutes of the market. I usually like to let the setups kind of form. I want to get a little bit more data. I want the market to show a direction, whether it's up or down or whether it's just going to chop around sideways. And I want that to inform my entries before I take a position. And so you can see Palantir push right up into this 200 daily moving average and started to consolidate right underneath it. But then we broke out above it and started to consolidate above that level. And so I was patiently waiting to see how we would react at this 200 daily moving average and see if we would hold that level. And we did. And so I got a pretty good entry right here around 10 a.m. Eastern, put my stop loss right below the 200 daily moving average, and was looking for at least a retest of this high of day up until that point. And I started to scale out as we hit this high of day. And that was up about 20% on the option contracts just at that point. And then we pulled back a little bit. I actually got stopped out on, or I took like another partial here, and then I had a runner that I held at break even. And I always like to hold a runner at break even or to kind of just trail the 9 EMA. That usually helps me at least stay in the trade in case we get a little bit more of a push. And that's exactly what we did here. So I was glad I held onto that runner, didn't get stopped out. And then I actually got out of the runner around 156 because that was a profit target that I had on my chart. In hindsight, obviously, I wish I would have held on to that a little bit longer. I probably could have gotten, 200% on the trade if I held up until this next supply zone. But I got stopped out kind of into this pullback into the level. But that's something that, you kind of live and learn. Maybe in the future, I would either hold and just put a new stop loss at this 156 level, or I could get out of the trade and then re-enter once I saw that we pulled back and held this level again, and then have a whole new trade up into this supply zone. But just with this move right here, I was able to get 100%, over 100% on the runner on this contract. So I was definitely happy with that outcome. There's always more that you can do. Looking back, of course, I wish I had, sized up more. I wish I had held all of the contracts longer, but sometimes you get stopped out in some of the pullback or consolidation. So that's why I typically take partials. There are other, trading methods out there and strategies, but that's just how I tend to trade. But overall, I was really happy with this trade. So if we come in and look at the market, you can see we've been consolidating in the market for the last, really couple weeks. And with the news of de-escalation from the Iran war and earnings really just taking off, we just skyrocketed up to all-time highs and broke out above it. And so today has been a little bit quieter, which makes sense. We've got a little bit of a pullback. It's been a little bit choppy, a little bit of consolidation as people probably just take some profits and kind of wait for the next catalyst to set up. But, I think the name of the game with trading is really just staying in the market and staying in a position, putting yourself in position for long enough to survive the sideways price action, the pullbacks, and just staying in the game long enough to catch these kind of breakout days and just not blowing up your account, not taking on too much leverage, and then putting yourself in position so that you can capitalize on days like yesterday where we had a huge breakout day on the market. So definitely a big day and looking forward to more days in the future. I think we have some big earnings coming up later this week and some more economic data coming out. So it'll be interesting to see if we can hold above all-time highs on the ES or if this Iran situation reverses and maybe we end up pulling back. But we'll be keeping an eye out on the market and looking out for the next trade.